Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's presentation. It sounds like we have the quorum on the line today, so we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to thank everyone for Honor Foods for taking time out of their busy schedules today to join us on our topic of advanced inventory and demand planning, which is a deeper dive for our purchasing and inventory managers as well as our planners on some previous topics that we've had around the NetSuite application. For any of you that I have not met before, my name is Zach Tullis. I am a solution consultant here at NetSuite. I support our customers in the manufacturing and wholesale distribution industry. I have worked in solution consulting for my entire career. I truly have a passion for helping organizations just like you really transform their business and achieve their business vision by implementing enabling technologies just like this. I have over 5 years of experience in both the cloud and the on-premise ERP space. If you think about the on-premise ERP, it's really that CD-based, behind the firewall, hosted and maintained and upgraded by your IT organization. And I've really had a front row seat to the transformation of the industry to now the cloud-based model, or as we call it, multi-tenant software as a service, with the impetus on that second S, the services piece. So we host, we maintain, and we upgrade the solution environment on your behalf on a twice a year cadence. So you always know that you're on the latest and greatest version of NetSuite, and you're taking advantage of all the new technologies and all the new releases that we have. I am coming to you live from Asbury Park, New Jersey, which, as we know, is the home of Bruce Springsteen, a.k.a. The Boss. I'm a big foodie, a music lover, gearhead, and an avid Penn State sports fan. We just kicked off our season against Temple last weekend in Philadelphia, and we got absolutely whooped, so it looks like it's going to be an interesting season. At this point, I'll open up the line for your introductions. If you could just tell me your name, your role within Honor Foods, and what you're looking to get out of today's presentation, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Now that we've gotten the pleasantries out of the way, we'll go ahead and jump into the real meat of today's presentation, and this is the agenda that we're going to follow. First, we're just going to recap on our past conversations, make sure that we're all on the same page, and we'll note if anything's changed since the last time we spoke. And then we'll jump into our live demonstrations. Our topic today is obviously advanced inventory capabilities as well as demand and supply planning. So for a very targeted audience that we have here, and we're going to go ahead and respect that. At the end, we'll wrap up with some Q&A, and we'll also talk about next steps. Just because the Q&A is at the end of today's presentation does not mean that I want you to go ahead and hold your questions. Let's make this as open and as interactive as possible for the next 40 minutes. This presentation is all about you today, so I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. If I can't answer it live, we'll note it in what we call the parking lot, and I'll get back to you with an answer as soon as I possibly can. Okay. So let's talk about what we've talked about. As we know today, there's currently some opportunities within Honor Foods that really stem around the fact that you have a heterogeneous or a siloed ERP landscape with a bunch of best-of-breed solutions and niche providers around it, even some of which are homegrown, so you kind of built your own in-house stuff as you guys grew as an organization. So siloed CRM, accounting, and warehouse management systems that really aren't enabling that real-time and actionable insights, which is really placated by the fact that there's also a one-dimensional view of all of your inventory. So because each location has its own warehouse management system, it's hard to get those real-time views into what's available to promise, what we have on hand, and what we need to go ahead and order and or make for our sales orders, so those systems aren't connected. So there's no real-time visibility into all of your inventory levels or locations. And as you grow and expand into new markets, you also need to be able to support multiple item types like matrix items as well as even service items as you start to do your own repairs and maintenance information. Demand planning as it stands today is done in Excel, and although you've noted that you have some pretty crafty charts and reports that you use to do that, overall it's been leading to really just reorder point-based ordering and to high inventory levels and high inventory carrying costs. So definitely not the lean organization that you are hoping to be and you are hoping to grow into, which is all, again, complicated by the fact that there's just really a general lack of visibility into all of your known orders and your sales orders, but also your historical and seasonal trends. So you can look back and also look forward and start to put together a better demand plan that's going to have optimized inventory levels. So I never like to talk about an organization's opportunities without letting them know, right away that NetSuite is here to help. And I call it connecting the dots. And our platform, as you know, and as part of our previous conversations we talked, is a fully integrated, cross-integrated platform. So everything from your CRM, which is your marketing, your sales, and your support. So once we book a sales order, we can automatically do that ATP check, make sure it's in stock. If it's not, we can see when the next purchase order is going to be coming in and when we can fulfill that order. If it can be fulfilled, it's going to go directly down to our warehouse, one of our specific warehouse locations, and we're going to go ahead and pick, pack, and ship that item and go ahead and do the fulfillment. We have integrated demand and supply planning, which is in addition to just your reorder points, so time phase-based reordering, which allows you to go ahead and, again, look at all your statistical, your historical demand, and also forecast your future demand based on those historics and those calculations, but also using known sales orders and quotes and estimates that you have out there. So really getting that 360-degree view of what your commitments are going to be and what they have been in the past to make more educated buying decisions or manufacturing decisions for the future. Again, all integrated to the backbone of your organization, which is your accounting and your GL and your chart of accounts, with analytics wrapped around it. So every one of these different modules has various reports and dashboards and saved searches that are pertinent to that specific business process or that specific work role. So again, a cross-integrated shared platform of data. I've even used the analogy before of like a pebble in a pond. So if the sales order is the pebble, the ripple of those sales order or that pebble goes to your inventory, goes to your demand supply planning. It also has accounting implications, so we can kind of see that across the solution. Make sense? And here's our demo flow for today. It's very straightforward. Again, a very targeted audience and targeted topics. The first thing we're going to do is log in as our purchasing or our inventory manager, review some dashboards and reports that are very pertinent to that role. We'll also go ahead and set up a new item. So we'll look at all the different item types that NetSuite supports out of the box, as well as go ahead and set up a new matrix item. And we'll even look at an item that I set up and look through all the configurations. Based on that item, we're going to actually use an item to book a sales order. And that sales order, because we have none in stock, is going to push through to our demand plan. So we're going to see that we have known demand or a known sales order for that item. So we need to go ahead and consume that demand plan and issue a supply plan, which is going to go ahead and create, in this case, a purchase order for that item or for that set of items. Alternatively, we also support the manufacturing of items, subcomponents, bill of materials, or assemblies. So we'll also look at an example where when an item is booked in a sales order, that it's going to go and create a work order for a set of components at one of our warehouse locations before we go ahead and send that out to the customer. And then at the end, we'll wrap up with some reporting and show some of the analytics and heads-up capabilities of our solution. Sound good? Okay, let's jump into our demo environment and get started. I'll make this full screen so everyone can see and just do a quick pulse check and make sure that everyone is able to view. As we can see in the upper right-hand corner, I am logged in as Edgar Manis, and Edgar is a purchasing or inventory manager within Honor Foods. And as such, we can see that his dashboard is configured to show really things that are pertinent to his role within the organization. So within our reminders portlet, we can see that he's got 22 items to order, which most often are coming from our supply plan. So we can set up kind of a gatekeeper to say before we send out those POs, we want to have the planner approve them and make sure that they're all good or make edits or changes. We have about 110 different orders that we need to receive at our warehouse dock. We've got 5 items currently on back order, so we definitely want to keep a good heads-up view of those items. And we can also see that we have some return authorizations or RMAs that we need to approve and receive as well. So again, all the heads-up information without Edgar having to go in and search for it within the system. In our navigation portlet, we also have, I guess you could say, some common action items that Edgar often does. For demand planning, we can go ahead and create a demand plan. We can create a supply plan. We can mass create work orders, go ahead and order purchase orders, or even look at all of our requirements for a specific item or SKU that looks again at all the sales orders and purchase orders against it. And then again, we have some pre-built out-of-the-box reports that Edgar can utilize. So we can look at our inventory availability, the status of our inventory, and even revenues. Towards the bottom, we have some heads-up key performance indicators, so we can see that our inventories are down versus today and this day, last month. And one click, we can drill down and get a more graphical representation. So I can view this by the day, but let's say I want to slice and dice this by the month. We can look at this from October into the summer, and as we all can see here, there was a pretty big spike in our inventory levels for the summer. But Edgar knows that that's pretty much due to the seasonal demand of the items that we carry. So maybe we carried some beach towels and beach chairs as we approach summer. So we wanted to stock more of those to prevent a stock out. I can also see my sales. I can view open purchase orders, and we can add different information. So if I want to go ahead and set up and add more KPIs, we can certainly do that. And Edgar can go ahead and he can manipulate this dashboard as he sees fit. So if he wants to come in and personalize, he can add a calendar, new key performance indicators, custom and saved searches, or he can manipulate it right here within. So if I want to drag my KPIs above my navigation portlet, or just generally change the layout or the look and feel, all those things Edgar is able to do without the need for IT. Again, giving him that personal look and feel, because everybody's role is different, and everyone is, working towards a certain set of KPIs. So I'm going to switch roles right here and jump into my administrator role so I can have all access to the solution environment. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at all of the different item types that NetSuite supports out of the box, because I know that as a growing organization, you're looking to go ahead and make sure that you can have and stock different item types, not just standard inventory items. So right here we're showing a list of all the item types that NetSuite supports out of the box, and what you're probably noticing is that this is a pretty long list of items, and I say that that's a good thing, right, because it's all the different item types that we can support directly out of the box for you. So we have some of our standard item types like our assembly and our bill of materials base. So maybe at the root level, we sell watches, but we need to go ahead and put them together like the specific band and the watch and the actual clasp. We have inventory items, which can be lot and serialized, as well as matrix items. So support for, let's say, T-shirt in size large, color blue, and all the different variations in between it. We support item groupings, and how is an item group different than a kit or a package? Well, the item group is actually a list of sub-items. So if we bring in the item group for our new computer, it's going to have the computer, maybe a keyboard, and a mouse, and all of those items can be manipulated at the item level, and the prices are routed as such at the item level itself. As opposed to a kit or a package, we would group all that information together. Pricing would be done at the kit level, and we couldn't go ahead and explode that kit and make changes or markups. We have support for non-inventory items like your consumables or maybe something for resale that's never going to go ahead and hit the shelf, and even support for services. So we can do a time-based billing based on that service itself. And you'll also notice some different item types like descriptions and discounts and downloadable items. Again, we support additional item types. Description allows you to add a free text description like shopping instructions. Discounts, we all know what those are. Maybe it's a student discount of 10% that we want to add directly to the sales order. Downloadable items like one-time downloads or multiple use downloads for things like service, manuals. Gift certificates, so costs incurred on behalf of one person and given to another as a gift. And I'll just highlight another one, markup, so increases in price. Maybe a customer needs this rush to their house. And I have an example of what that all looks like here in our sales order. So we have an order for a printer, and we can see that there was a discount and a markup given as well, and we can see all the description. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how we can create a new matrix item. So again, we don't have to go one by one and create. So this is our blue t-shirt in large, and that's an item, and this is our blue t-shirt in medium and in small. We can go ahead and do it on a bulk basis, and as we can see here, it's also part of a wizard guided process, which is very important because it guides your end users through the entire process so that they can do it quickly and easily and efficiently. So we give the item a name or a number. We can also integrate this to our web store. So are we going to have these displayed in our e-commerce or our website? And then we choose the item properties and also the combination. So we have this t-shirt in blue, red, and green, and in size small, medium, large, and extra large. And then we'll go ahead and create all the combinations of those within them. And then after that, we'll go ahead and create all the items. And it's often a parent-child relationship. So let's say this is our Fruit of the Loom t-shirt in blue. At the top or at the root, you'll also be able to see all the different variations and combinations of that. So let's go ahead and I'll search for an item that I created earlier today to give us a good example of what a fully baked item looks like. And because it's September, so we're getting close to Halloween, I wanted to have a little fun with this item. What we're looking at here is a Halloween costume that I'm probably going to be wearing this year for some of the festivities, which is a jetpack Halloween costume. So this is a seasonal item that we at Honor Food stock. We can see at the top all the header level data, so I've given it a name. We can see how we stock it, which is in eaches. And then at the bottom, we get to the real meat of this item itself, and this is all the inventory as well as the item details and pricing. So I have my item or my cost details. We can see that I purchased this for $3 and the last purchase price that we had, because as we know, there's probably going to be some variation of that purchase price if we don't have a contract. I can also see the total value of all of my inventory, and we can see that I've intentionally, zeroed it all out because we want this to show up in our demand plan. And also much like a fuse box, right? So you kind of turn on and turn off the functionality that you want or need for this item. Are we going to track total landed costs for this item so we can correctly measure our cost of goods sold? Is this just going to be a drop ship item, so when a customer creates a sales order for it in our system, that just creates a purchase order, so we go out to our supplier for that and it gets sent directly from that supplier to the shipping address of our customers? Do we use bin? So if our inventory warehouse location is set up by bin, what bin is this going to be associated with? And it can be one or multiple. In terms of inventory management, how do we calculate our ATP? Are available to promise? Are we only looking at sales orders? So this is our cumulative ATP with the look ahead, so it includes our forecast and our sales orders. Or is it just going to be discrete ATP and just look at, what we have in stock and what's in our purchase orders? What type of replenishment method are we going to use? I know right now mostly it's reorder point based, which is as it stands today, and I know that you're also looking to get into more of a demand planning type module. So, by setting that flag to time phase, we go ahead and route the demand planning module in the background. We also have the ability to set up distribution networks. So as a company that utilizes multiple warehouse locations, let's say maybe your sourcing guys negotiate a great contract that all of these costumes we're going to get at a special rate if we ship directly to one location as opposed to multiple. So we make it easy for the supplier. Well, that's great. So we can send all of these to our San Francisco location, and we'll use that as our distribution network. So what we'll do is instead of creating purchase orders, every time we need more stock of this Halloween costume, we'll go ahead and just deplete the inventory location that is our hub, and kind of that hub and spoke model. As I scroll down, we can also see our manufacturing information. So if our supplier was getting this from somebody else, so maybe a 2 or a 3-tiered model, we can note who the actual manufacturer is and what that part number. And down at the bottom, I can also see all my different various locations that generally stock this item. And we can see that our San Francisco item, our San Francisco warehouse as none on hand, and that is our preferred location. And again, I did this on purpose so that we could have this show up in our demand plan. When it comes to lot sizing methods, so based on the supply plan, we can say, well, just look at the supply plan and go ahead and order that amount. So if the supply plan says 10, then we order 10, and that's lot for lot. Or I can change it, and I'll throw this into edit mode here so we can see the different configurations. I can also change it to say, well, I always want to order a fixed lot size. So let's go back to our purchasing contract example. So let's say we get a discount every time we order 10,000 of these. So I want to only order lots or fixed lot sizes of 10,000 every time we order. So we can set that by warehouse location, or we can even set it at the item level. Next, we look at our demand source. So because I set time phase reorder points, we go ahead and we can look at, only when we're going ahead and we're planning our demand, I just want to look at our entered and planned orders. So I want to look at our sales orders that we have booked, and I want to look at any quotes or estimates that we have outstanding. Or I want to use a combination of forecast and orders. So what do we think we're going to need for the future? And we can also use that based on historical demand as well. So we can have combinations of each. We also have, our time fences and our scheduled days in and out, as well as our ATP lead time. And we give you the flexibility to model a couple different scenarios so that when your salespeople are looking at the ATP or looking at the inventory levels in stock, and maybe they're promising a customer on an item on a certain date, we want to make sure that the lead time that we're giving them is actually a lead time that we can commit and fulfill on or promise on. So most often for that, a standard lead time of 5 days just to get the item from the supplier to our warehouse is not enough. We want to build in some time parameters around our demand and planning schedule, which might take a day each, as well as, what also, when we get this item at our warehouse, do we scan it, block stock it, and do some QA on it before we actually get it into the bin? Because that might take a day as well. So maybe instead of a 5-day lead time, we're actually looking at an 8-day lead time. So we want to make sure that we build that into our system so that our ATP is properly reflecting it. And we can also set the inventory count at the warehouse level as well, so we can tell it what our first count date is. So maybe it's going to be the end of September 30th, let's say, and we can do it on a 30-day interval. So every 30 days we go ahead and do a cycle count or an inventory count for this item. And we can even note the classification. So if this is a high velocity, high moving item, we can note that here. If I scroll over to my item details, I'll call your attention to the bottom. If we go ahead and select the historical item sales, we can see that I have 10 of these on sales orders and also 10 on PO. So we've got 10 coming in to go ahead and fulfill those orders. And we can also look at the historical orders as well. So we've sold 60 of these items in September alone, which I guess is because we're approaching our Halloween, so we have people coming in and ordering these. I can also look at projected demand. So this will show me how many sales orders I have or how many known sales orders that we have in the system that we're going to want to go ahead and reference when we do our supply planning. Last but not least, we can also view the pricing for the item. So we get this from our supplier at $3. And as you'll note at the bottom, we sell it for $45. So we have a pretty healthy profit margin here all the way through our different discount levels as well. We can also set up pricing by group. So let's say that maybe for our premier customers, we always give them a price of $20. We can go ahead and assign that here at the item level as well and say that, this is also in our premier group. And I've also drilled over into our related transactions, and we can see all the various sales orders that have been booked against this item as well. So it looks like one of our customers is having a lot of popularity and a lot of sales associated with it. What we can do from here is I can actually drill into a sales order, and we'll use this kind of as the linchpin to go ahead and do our demand plan. So we know that obviously we have 0 available, which we can see at the bottom, and we also noted that before with my on-hand quantities at the item level. But the order is for an order of 5, and it's at the end of the month. So this is the order that we're going to go ahead and do our demand plan against. So to execute that demand plan, we'll jump into our transactions list, come to demand planning, and we'll actually walk through each of these different items or each of these different pieces because they all kind of work together as part of the demand planning. So first we'll calculate our demand plan. We'll then generate our supply plan, which will consume our demand plan. We'll order the items if they have purchase orders against them, and we'll also mass create work orders for that as well if there's some sub-assembly involved. So let's go ahead and calculate our demand plan for our Jetpack Halloween costume, and we can see that up here. So all I have to do is, submit the location for the demand plan to be done against, and then also select the projection method, and we support linear regression, moving average, sales forecast, and seasonal averages out of the box. So I'm going to use our sales forecast. Why? Because my sales forecast includes all of my known sales orders as well as estimates and quotes. And obviously we have a sales order in there right now for 5 of these jetpacks. And we'll also do this at the monthly level, and we'll use a 6-month projection, so show me all the sales orders that we have for the next 6 months. And again, I can mark all these if I want to do it against all the different items at this location, or we'll just go ahead and select my Jetpack Halloween costume so it churns pretty quickly. You can also note here there's a drop down for an alternate source item. Well, why would you want to use this? And most of my customers use this for new items. So because this jetpack, this is the first time that we've ever stocked it for this season, we don't have a ton of transactional data against it. So we want to go ahead and we can route a like item for that. So maybe we have another Halloween costume that's been a high velocity item. We can bring that in, and we'll go ahead and look at the historical demand and also the forecasted sales for that as well to help with our projections or make our projections more relevant. Make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and submit our demand plan. As you can see, I've already been in the system playing around with some of these demand plans, so we'll go ahead and overwrite the one that I did last time. And obviously we let the system do all the heavy lifting for us, and I can see my demand plan by my location, so we can see all the different locations that we have warehouses for. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just view that demand plan real quick. And what you'll notice on this screen is that here we have the orders for the month of September. So obviously I've been in the system creating a bunch of sales orders and also fulfilling them in the background. So this month we've actually sold 35, and that's what the system's picking up, all those sales orders that we have for this jetpack. But we're not going to order 35 because we don't need 35. We only need the amount to fulfill that sales order. So as we go back directly from our demand plan, we can go ahead and generate our item supply plan. Now, if you remember from before, this supply plan is going to go ahead and consume the demand plan, and it's also used as our schedule for our purchasing or our subcomponent manufacturing. So I'm going to go ahead and select our San Francisco location. We can also do supply planning against all of our different warehouses, and we call that our distribution network, so I can do that at the aggregate level as well. The result is essentially, we'll be able to see, the purchase orders that are going to be created for all the items that we're going to buy, and also the work orders for the sub-assemblies. And it'll also know transfer orders as well. So if I was planning through my distribution network and we were going to go ahead and deplete the inventory of another stocking location before we executed a purchase order, this is where we could execute that plan as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually just going to do this for my Jetpack Halloween costume. We'll hit submit. And the result is, the system's going to tell me proactively what we go ahead and we're going to need to order for this item. So I've got my supply plan working in the background. I get my confirmation. Here's my jetpack. And if we select view, it's going to give me a projection. So we need to go ahead and create a purchase order for 5 of these, just like I noted in my purchase order. So all that information is flowing back to front from the sales order which was then picked up by my sales forecast and then noted in my demand and my supply plan. So again, just kind of talking to that closed loop integration of the system. What you'll also notice here is that we can also have planning messages that are routed. So this helps the planner kind of adjust based on the logic that's within the system. So this is really, it's heads up information for the planner, and it provides recommendations. So, it'll show quantity on hand variances if we have a late purchase order that's been shipped, so we want to delay our orders or bring orders in earlier. So just giving your planners that actionable and intelligence so we can manage our inventory and our stock levels while also being able to fulfill our orders on time. So let's go ahead now, and I guess it's important to notice as well that I'm going through this in a very linear fashion just to show you, the steps that the system takes. But at this point, we could go ahead and have the system automatically generate a purchase order, or we can come in and edit it. So let's say I want 10 because I actually want to have 5 in our inventory after this. We can note that as well, and again, the system could have picked that up for us if we built that logic in. But I'm doing this again in a very step-by-step based process. So we'll come back to our demand plan, and we'll go ahead and select order items. Again, we'll just drop down for our location, and this will show me from an aggregated perspective all the different purchase orders or work orders that we need to execute. Here is my jetpack, so I'm going to uncheck everything real quick and only check that, so I'll submit my purchase order for it. And as we hit submit, again, this is going to go ahead and create a PO, an outbound purchase order for my jetpack. But as we noted previously, we can also support demand aggregation. So if I had many locations that, multiple orders that we were having for these items that were going to these suppliers, we could aggregate those POs together and just have one outbound PO, as you can note here. And we also support EDI messages, so we can get that to your suppliers in real time. And from here, I can also go ahead and select that purchase order number so we can review the information. And what I'll actually do at this point, too, is we'll go ahead and receive these items. So we'll say that a couple days has gone by. We'll select receive. They've showed up at our warehouse. They're ready to be stocked. And as soon as we hit save, now we know that they're in stock, we can actually go ahead and fulfill that previous order. So I'll go ahead and let's pull up our recent sales order for Alex, and I'm just navigating to my recents to do that. We'll hit fulfill. Don't have to type anything in. It automatically defaults, even the location, all based on the sales order. We'll hit save, and now we know that, again, that order is out the door on its way to Alex. As we also noted previously, so instead of creating a purchase order, we can also route work orders. So we'll come back into our demand plan, and we'll show the mass creation of work orders. So based on that demand plan, and again, that supply plan, let's say we know that we need to go ahead and do some light manufacturing on one of our items to be able to put it into inventory and then go ahead and deplete that inventory. So we'll look at let's look specifically at our Boston location. We have our office desk for our 6-drawer desk. And if we go ahead and just, we can unmark these or just mark the desk. And again, this is kind of a gatekeeper that'll go ahead and it'll create a firm's work order, or we can also have, approval based in there before this actually goes ahead and we start picking the items and putting them together. So this will execute that work order in the same way that it went ahead and executed an external purchase order. And the last piece in our demand planning process, we'll look at the gross requirements inquiry. I'll go ahead and leave this page. What this shows is really a comprehensive view of all the different orders that we have and fulfillments and receipts against the specific item. So I'm looking at, again, our San Francisco location for the item of the jetpack. And I've selected show details, and this shows me every time. So our beginning inventory, when we received 10, when they were depleted from an item fulfillment, when we also received a new order for 5, and then we went ahead and fulfilled that. So our quantity on hand is still 0. And you can kind of think about this like a true ATP check. Although we have it built in, obviously, in the sales order, and we can get real-time inventory reviews in our reports, as a planner, this is a really good place to see where you can borrow maybe from other sales orders, but in a safe way, knowing that you're going to be covered by your incoming purchase order. So we'll fulfill this order now for 5, knowing full well that I have a purchase order for 10 that's going to be coming in at the end of this month. And lastly, I just wanted to finish up with some reporting. So if we scroll down to our reports, remember that NetSuite has over 200 out-of-the-box reports that we give to you as part of the implementation. And if we come into reports that are specific to demand planning, we have a couple different options here. We can see demand history by item, demand plan by item, demand forecast versus actual, which is very powerful as well. So we can see, based on what the system projected, how close were we to what we actually sold. I'll go ahead and drill into our demand history by item. And again, out of the box report, but we can go ahead and we can configure this or slice and dice it on the fly. So again, it's broken down by location, and I'll roll this up so we can get a better view. So by location, and then again by category and by actual SKU. I'm going to go ahead and let's bring in, let's view all of our sales by month. And again, this is a historic analysis so we can see by month what we've sold as it accumulates towards the total. So that'll give me a better idea of, maybe as a seasonal perspective, what we want to order for this Halloween when it comes to our jetpacks. Again, if I'm a more visual learner, this graph is great, but I want to turn this into a chart. One click to go ahead and transform that information. And we can go ahead and switch between different charting elements like a pie chart or a line graph. We can slice and dice this by the month. So let's look at April 2014. On our x-axis, we have our items, and on our y-axis, we have our time period and our quantities. So we can see how all of these things fluctuate. Again, remember that we can PDF this, we can export it to Excel, we can print, send it to colleagues, and we can even schedule this report. So say this is a report that I want to view every day around the same time. That could be the first report that I get in the morning. Again, all based off that real-time transactional data that's occurring within our integrated system. So if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and toggle back to our PowerPoint presentation and just round out today. So where have we been? The first thing we logged in is our inventory manager, and we looked at different dashboards and reports within the system. Then we went ahead and we talked about the different item types that NetSuite supports, and we also looked at creating a matrix item in the guided process, and looked at a created item that I did, which was our jetpack Halloween costume. We then used a sales order kind of in the middle there to go ahead and create the demand for our demand plan. We consumed the demand plan in our supply planning, and then we went ahead and executed a purchase order to bring in 5 of those. As we received them, we then allocated them to the customer order, and we also looked at, from a supply plan, how that could also execute a work order and how that firm's work order could then go down to our warehouse or the manufacturing station for the assembly or sub-assembly. And just to recap, I won't go through all these today in real time. You'll have this PowerPoint presentation as a result of our session today. But if you come away with really one sentence or a few key themes, remember that this is a fully integrated sales, inventory, warehouse management, and planning application that's all running on true real-time information that's going to enable your organization to increase its customer service and sales, while also reducing your inventory carrying costs and reducing your risk of stockouts. So I just want to say, thank you everyone for your time today, and I'll open it up for some Q&A. Thank you again, and have a great day.